Okay, we're talking about 13.7 today. And so the first problem that I think is a little more difficult is problem 21. You need to draw a vertical line through 2, 5. So here's the point 2, 5, over 2, down 5, and it's vertical. So we know that every point on this line has an x-coordinate of 2. This point here would be 2, negative 1, 2, negative 2, 2, negative 3, etc. Okay, so what you can see is that every point has an x-coordinate of 2, and the y's are what vary. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, the point 2, negative 5. So when we have this situation, what we do is we say that this is the line x equals 2. The next one's just like it, only instead of doing a vertical line, it's a horizontal line through 3, 1. So again, every point on the line has a y-coordinate of 1. Okay, so 3, 1, 0, 1, negative 3, 1, 3, 1, 0, 1, negative 3, 1. So when we have this situation here, the line is just y equals 1. We need to find for 23 the line through 5, negative 3. Here's the point 5, negative 3. And it needs to be parallel to x equal 4. X equal 4 is just a vertical line, as we saw in problem 21. And if we need to go through the point x or 5, negative 3, it's also going to be vertical, since it needs to be parallel to this line x equals 4. The x-coordinate of every point on this dashed line here is 5, so the line is x equals 5. Okay, this next problem here is this guy. It has to be, it's number 25. We have to get the equation of a line through 5, 7, and parallel to the line y equals 3x minus 4. So we need a slope of this line. We know that all lines that are parallel have the same slope. So the slope of this line here is 3. All right, now we have a point of 5, and we have a point of 5, 7. And we have a slope of 3. And we can use the point slope form. Y minus y1, that's 7, equals the slope m, which is 3, times x minus x1, which is 5. So this is the equation in point slope form. Remember, you always leave these guys alone. Leave the straight up y's and x's alone. Okay? Then now what we need to do is take this equation in point slope form and put it into slope intercept form. So we do that just algebraically. 3x minus 15, just distribute the 3, and then add 7 to both sides. Negative 15 plus 7 is minus 8. So y is equal to 3x minus 8. The next problem that we do is we have this line through the point negative 3, negative 2, and we need it perpendicular to this line x, 8x minus 5y equals 0. So first thing we need to do is find the line of the slope perpendicular to this line here. Let's find the slope first, and then we'll take the negative reciprocal to get the perpendicular line's slope. So the slope of 8x minus 5y equals 0. That's a little tricky. I need to turn this into slope intercept form, and then I can read the slope off it pretty simply. So adding 8x or subtracting 8x from both sides, I get minus 5y equals negative 8x plus 0. So I get y is equal to 8/5 x plus 0. I divide both sides by negative 5. Every term here has to get divided by negative 5. Okay, so if the slope of this line here is 8/5, the slope of a line perpendicular to this guy is the negative reciprocal, so it's negative 5/8. So now I have a slope for the reciprocal line. It needs to be negative 5/8, and I need to use this point. So I'm going to use point slope form and just crank it out now. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus a negative 2 equals m, my slope of my reciprocal line, negative 5/8 times x minus x1, negative 3. So y minus a negative 2, that's y plus 2 equals minus 5/8 times x minus a negative 3, that's x plus 3. Distribute the minus 5/8, minus 5/8 x minus, okay, now this is interesting. Negative 5/8 times 3, that's minus 15/8. Remember, I multiply the numerators and the denominators here. And so then adding 2 or subtracting 2 from both sides. See, the trickiest part about this, guys, is going to be the arithmetic, not the algebra, not the geometry. Okay, so I have minus 5/8 x minus 15/8 minus 2. I need a common denominator here. So my common denominator in order to add these two fractions is 8. Okay, so 2 is equal to 16/8. So minus 2 is going to be minus 16/8. So here I have minus 5/8 x minus, let's see, negative 15/8 minus 16/8 is negative 31/8. And there's the correct answer there for 27. Okay, 29. For 29, what you're given is you're given 2 points, 0, 0, and 10, 6, and you need to find the equation of the line that goes, the equation of the perpendicular bisector of this line AB. So let's figure out the slope of AB first, because then we can get the slope of the perpendicular bisector. So the slope of AB is delta y over delta x. Okay, so 6 minus 0 divided by 10 minus 0. I get the slope of AB is 3/5. So the slope of the line perpendicular to AB is going to be the reciprocal of 3/5, the negative reciprocal, and there it is, minus 5/3. Okay, so I got the slope of the line. Now I need the midpoint, because the midpoint is always on the perpendicular bisector, right? Yes, it is. Okay, we need to find the equation of this line that I just drew in. So the way I find the midpoint is I just use the midpoint formula. It's the average of the x's, 10 plus 0, divided by 2, and the average of the y's, 6 plus 0, divided by 2. So this is 10 halves, which is 5. This is 6 halves, which is 3. So I know I have the midpoint now. Okay, so I have a point, which is the midpoint, and I have the perpendicular line's slope, which is minus 5/3. So now I just back to the same old thing, back to point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus 3 equals the slope, negative 5/3 times x minus 5. And then I go through it. Again, I'm going to have to add fractions. Okay, so let's see. Distributing the minus 5/3, I have minus 5/3 x plus 25/3 there. Negative 5/3 times the negative 5 is plus 25/3. Got to add 3 to both sides. Okay, I do that. I'm left with y by itself on this left-hand side. Oh, golly, this is terrible. Okay, sorry, have to start over again. So here's the slope of the perpendicular line here. Here is the slope of the, here's the midpoint of that segment, 5, 3, and now I use the point slope form to figure this out. Y minus 3 equals the slope m times x minus x1, x minus 5 there. Okay, adding, let me back up. Distributing this slope through the, what's in the parentheses, minus 5/3 x plus negative 5/3 times negative 5, that's 25/3. And then I have to add 3 to both sides, so y by himself here. So I have negative 5/3 x plus 25/3, and then 3, I need a common denominator in order to add. 3 and 9/3 is the same thing. So I have 25/3 plus 9/3, that's going to give me 34/3, and still have my minus 5/3 x. So this line right here is the slope, is the equation of the line of the perpendicular bisector. Very articulate today. Okay, that's 29. The last problem is truly horrible, and if I had it to do all over again, I would have never assigned it. Okay. Nope, this is not true. I've got 2 more problems to do. Okay, 31. 31 here is, this one's not too bad. Okay, I need to find the equation of a line that passes through the point 5, 5, and it makes a 45-degree angle with the x axis when you're going counterclockwise. So counterclockwise is like this. So I need this line here to be 45 degrees. So from here to here is 45 degrees. Okay, so there I go. All right, so first thing I want to do is figure out the slope. Okay, so the slope, delta y, 5 minus 0 over delta x, 5 minus 0. So the slope is 1. And the y-intercept here is 0, 0. So I'm going to use the slope-intercept form because I know the intercept and I know the slope. The reason I don't use point slope here is because I have the intercept, which is better than just a garden variety point. So y equals mx plus b. I substitute 1 in for the slope and 0 for b, and I get y equals x. Now, this is an important thing to remember. Anytime you've got a 45-degree angle here, going counterclockwise from the x-axis, it's always the line y equals x. Every point on this line is going to have an x and the y exactly the same. So here's the 0.11, the 0.22, the 0.33, the 0.44, the 0.55. You can see that y equals x in every case. All right, so that's 31. 35 is the horrible problem. And this one, I'm going to have to be really careful to keep this centered here in this viewer. All right, so here's the problem. Find the center of the circle that passes through, they give you 3 points, 2, 10, 10, 6, negative 6, negative 6. So here's the equation of a circle. X minus h quantity squared plus y minus k equals r squared. So, using each of these points here, I'm going to plug this in. So let's see, h, that's 10 minus, and I don't know the center. What I need to do is I need to find the center. I need to find hk, and I don't even know the radius of this equation. So, I'm going to use what I can here. 10 minus h quantity squared plus 6 minus k quantity squared equals r squared. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. That's one equation. That's 3 unknowns. I do know that this point is on the equation of this circle, so, I can fill it in. I can fill in all these x's and y's here, but it doesn't give me any information. I can do the same with this second point, 210. Okay, this is the x-coordinate here. This is the y-coordinate. 2 minus h quantity squared plus 10 minus k quantity squared equals r squared. A second equation. One equation, 3 variables. I can't really solve for h, k, or r. Same with the third. One equation, 3 variables. So what am I going to do? Well, what I notice is that these guys all equal r squared, right? So they all solve. So this is equal to this is equal to this. That's really key. You notice that all these equations that I generated, they all equal r squared, so they're all equal to each other. Okay, so maybe, if I start to solve this, if I can somehow simplify this, maybe I can make some headway here. Now, take a look at this, guys. This equation here, that's this guy right here, where I'm pointing with my finger. Okay, this equation is equal to this equation. So I set them equal to each other. And now I have some really disgusting thing that I have to solve. Okay, 10 minus h quantity squared equals 10 minus h times 10 minus h. 6 minus k quantity squared equals 6 minus k times 6 minus k. I do the same over here. All right, I expand everything. Told you this was ugly. I expand everything. And then I just combine like terms and I simplify. And finally, I get, 32 equals 16h minus hk, minus 8k. Everything else cancels out. So I factor out an 8 here, and I get 2h minus k. And I divide both sides by 8. And so what I end up here with is 4 equals 2h minus k. That's one equation, 2 unknowns. Okay, maybe I can set the other 2 equations equal to each other, get a second equation with just 2 unknowns, and then I can maybe solve a simultaneous set of equations. So doing just that, you'll notice here, okay, I have 10 minus this equation is equal to r squared here, and this bottom one is equal to r squared. So I can set these two guys equal to each other. So I have 10 minus h where the pencil is, 10 minus h quantity squared plus 6 minus k quantity squared, that has to equal negative 6 minus h quantity squared plus negative 6 minus k quantity squared. And again, this gets ugly, but it does work. All right, expanding and then combining like terms, I finally get to the point where I have 64 equals 32h plus 24k. Factoring out an 8 here, I get, this is 8 times 4h plus 3k. Dividing through by 8, I finally get this second equation, 8 equals 4h plus 3k. Now I've got the two equations, okay? I have the first one, 4 is equal to 2h minus k, and then I have the second equation, 8 equals 4h plus 3k. So now I can solve these guys, solve a system of equations. I told you this was ugly. Multiplying, taking this top equation and multiplying both sides by 2 so that I can get rid of the 4's. Okay, I get 8 equals 4h minus 2k. So I multiplied both right side and left side by 2. This looks like a squared, but it's not. It's really, I'm multiplying by 2. And then just using this bottom equation, I subtract the two equations. So 8 minus 8 is 0, 4h minus 4h is 0h, and then negative 2k minus 3k is negative 5k. Dividing both sides by negative 5, I get the k equals 0. Now, substituting into this first equation here, right here, that I've just marked with a 1, okay, I know that k is 0. 8 equals 4h plus 3 times k. K is 0. So I get that 4h equals 8. If 4h equals 8, then h equals 2. So now I have the x-coordinate of the center, and I had the y-coordinate of the center. So the center of my circle is 2, 0, which, if you'll notice, because I drew such a beautiful picture here, you can kind of see that the center of this circle is 2, 0. Right there. So anyways, hope that wasn't too torturous for everybody, and I would call this quits now.